Obesity on university campuses is a prevalent issue in today's society, but it is also an issue for the broader global community. As according to the World Health Organization, an estimated 2.1 billion people are considered obese. The American Medical Association recognizes obesity as both an illness and a leading cause of preventable death and chronic disease. Obesity affects a significant amount of the population from every country, and it does not discriminate between age, gender, and ethnicity. Obesity, which is defined by WHO as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that presents a risk to health. It has become one of the world's greatest health concerns and threatens to undo gains made in life expectancy during the 20th century. Basically, obesity occurs when you eat too much and exercise too little. And if you're consuming high amounts of energy, particularly fats and sugars, and don't burn off that energy through exercise and physical activity, then the body will store the energy as deposits of fats. Obesity can be a cause of several other health ailments such as heart disease, stroke, early mortality, greater morbidity, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and among others. Obesity has been proven to lead to a variety of mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, stress, and lowered self-esteem. On Western campus, obesity may not be perceived as such a great health issue, but overeating and eating unhealthily are present in university culture. The food in campus eateries are predominantly greasy, fat-filled, and calorie-loaded, which in moderation are okay. But when eating poorly and maintaining an irregular sleep schedule, these habits may compound to leading to an obesity-filled future. The most popular way to measure obesity in a crew population is the body mass index, or BMI, which is a person's weight in kilograms divided by the square of his or her height in meters. It is generally accepted that a person with a BMI of 30 or more is considered obese. A person with a BMI equal to or more than 25 is considered overweight. The prevalence and range of obesity is widespread and far-reaching. It is a health concern in every country, and even the OECD countries are vulnerable to high obesity rates, with Canada and the US having amongst the highest in the world. According to data from the Canadian Community Health Survey, 26.7% of Canadians were obese in 2015, which was up from 23.1% in 2004. This survey suggests that the diet and exercise habits of Canadians is suffering and serving as a breeding ground for growing obesity rates. Saskatchewan has Canada's highest obesity rate, with 45.9% of adults falling into that category, while British Columbia has the lowest rate at 21.4%. A noticeable growth of obesity in Saskatchewan has been witnessed as the rates rose from 30.8% to 45.9% between 2004 and 2015. This image from 2015 by Statistics Canada shows the percentage of obese adults in each province or territory. As you can see from this image, in all but two provinces, BC and Quebec, a quarter of the population in every province and territory is considered obese. Obesity greatly affects the health of Canadians, and evidence suggests that the obesity rates in Canada are increasing, which means our diets and exercise habits need to be revitalized. A 2004 study conducted by the Canadian Institute for Health Information indicates that the socioeconomic status of Canadian citizens can have an impact on their chances of becoming obese by adopting unhealthy eating habits, and there is an increased risk of obesity among groups with low social status. For adults, education is a strong determinant. For children, household income plays a major role. The linkages between socioeconomic status and obesity are complex and difficult to analyze. However, there is evidence to suggest that behavior patterns of those living in poverty are more likely to promote obesity than those of the higher income counterparts. The reason for this is the availability of low-cost nutritious food and safe, inexpensive places to exercise. This presentation will be discussing in further detail how Western University campus eateries are perpetuating a lifestyle and culture based on consuming fast, unhealthy foods due to their lower costs, higher conveniences when compared to healthy alternatives. Furthermore, we will be discussing the shockingly low activity rates in Canada and how inactivity is directly correlated with rising obesity rates. In summation, we will break down what obesity can lead to in regard to other health ailments and provide some solutions in response to the growing obesity epidemic. As seen in this graph from Health Canada, Canadian children, youth, and young adults are experiencing higher rates of obesity than in the past. Between 1979 and 2009, rates of measured obesity for youth increased from 3 to 11%, and the rates for young adults more than doubled during the same period, increasing from 6 to 15%.
So, the first thing we're going to talk about here is campus living and campus eateries. When it comes to obesity rates on university campuses, it's pretty clear to see why obesity rates are so high. I mean, the term freshman 15 exists for a reason. The scenario plays out as the following, as an experience that I have lived myself and can speak to. Students who live on their own have to buy groceries, and when they go to the supermarkets, the meals that will fill them up the most while simultaneously saving them the most money are the foods that are commonly known as college meals. These include ramen noodles, macaroni and cheese, frozen pizzas, etc., etc. Furthermore, first-year students who live on campus are required to add a meal plan to their student cards. Now, taking a look at the restaurant options available on campus at Western University, there aren't many options here for healthy eating. For all intents and purposes, one could argue that the healthiest restaurant in the UCC is Subway, and even that restaurant has been exposed by numerous publications for the majority of their menu items containing incredibly high percentage levels of sodium and fat. It's no surprise as to why students would rather grab a $2 bagel as opposed to a $7 salad. The drastic price difference between healthier foods and fast food makes the decision easy for the average student who is trying to save money. According to a recent study, the price of more healthy foods was consistently greater than that of less healthy foods over the period 2002 to 2012, and that the absolute price gap between healthy and less healthy foods has grown over this period, with the average healthy foods approximately 3 times more expensive than less healthy foods. This generally explains why there will always be a lineup at the Tim Hortons or the Manchu Walk as opposed to the Subway. And to be clear, students are actually very interested in consuming healthier alternatives. A study done by Aviva Insurers recently discovered that more than 3/4 of young people were interested in eating more healthily, but found themselves unable to afford the food. Now, without cheaper prices towards healthier foods for students to eat, the consumption of fast food, which in turn leads to higher obesity rates, will continue to be a growing issue. Obesity, more often than not, leads to an extreme decline in self-esteem, and when students don't have the money or the resources to partake in a more nutritious diet, this can often lead to young adults taking dietary matters into their own hands. According to a study done by the University of Waterloo, while most young adults use health-recommended methods in order to lose weight, there is still a concerning portion of young adults who use potentially life-threatening ways to drop the weight. This table shows that nearly 1/5 of the sample reported engaging in at least one unhealthy weight loss behavior. The most commonly reported unhealthy weight loss behavior was skipping meals or fasting to lose weight, followed by doing a cleanse or diet and taking pills not needing a prescription. Of course, one could argue that this is a small percentage. However, the number is still larger than it should be. Having cheaper options and better access to healthy foods could significantly decrease this issue, and fortunately, it seems as though post-secondary institutions are becoming aware of this very fact. Universities across Canada, Western included, have been taking more progressive steps towards installing healthier food stops on campus. Seen in this picture is a vending machine option that Western has recently placed in the UCC. This vending machine will allow students to choose from a wide variety of containers that are filled with healthier combinations of vegetables, such as spinach, corn, and tomatoes, protein, such as chicken and beef, and sources of fiber, such as black beans and chickpeas, in order to get more nutrients in their diets. All of the containers cost approximately $9.99 plus tax, and while these price points are still not ideal, it is definitely a start towards a healthier campus. If you take the time to walk in front of the UCC and beside Weldon Library, oftentimes throughout the week you can find local vendors selling fresh produce and locally grown products that students can purchase as a healthy alternative to the high prices found at grocery stores. Furthermore, Ontario's recent implementation of the menu labeling legislation has forced companies with 20 or more premises to add the nutritional information of every item on their menu for the public to see. Although Ontario's legislation is too recent to warrant any studies, similar studies done in America have shown that calorie content information on the menu and respondents' subjective nutrition knowledge had a significant impact on young adults' intention to select lower calorie foods. So rather than going to the spoke and ordering a poutine, you can have hope that slowly but surely healthier alternatives are arriving. Now to move on to the activity rates in Canada. As someone who has lived life being obese for the majority of his life, I have some first-hand experience in dealing with the side effects of obesity, ranging from minor body pains such as joint cramps to a steadily declining mental health. On the plus side, this is what I look like now. However, having lost that weight, I experienced the two most common traits are that lead to obesity: poor diet and substantial inactivity. Now that we've covered the poor eating habits that affect university students, we can take a look at the inactivity rates that affect students as well. In a recent study conducted by Nature International Journal for Science, discovered that individuals in 5 countries with the highest activity inequality are 196% more likely to be obese than individuals from the 5 countries with the lowest activity inequality. From this graph shown here, Nature infers that Canada is in the top 5 countries with the lowest activity rates, which links to the country's high obesity rates. While this study mainly focused on the inactivity rates of the entirety of Canada, the issue at hand still largely affects the students on university and college campuses. When attempting to combat these issues, obesity prevention interventions generally focus on access to material resources like healthy foods, nutritional education, and sports and recreation facilities. However, it seems as though students don't feel as though they are receiving the proper resources in order to get the sufficient amount of physical activity needed in their daily routines. According to a survey done that drew from the experiences of numerous university students, college students report high workloads and lack of time in transportation to facilities as barriers to physical activity participation, which in turn led to said students engaging in less than 1 hour of moderate to vigorous physical activity a day. Overall, the main indicator as to why students are not getting increased activity, specifically if you ask them yourselves, is that they don't have access to the proper resources to increase their activity rates. The campus used during the study was described as being a larger campus with 2 gyms on the premises. By comparison, Western University has, what many would claim to be, a very large campus as well, yet their campus only has 1 recreational facility, unless you include Thames Gym. One could argue that shuttles could be a useful mode of transportation to the rec center. However, the shuttles only go as close as Alumni Hall, with the next stop being across from Talbot College. And if you think students are going to walk from residence buildings as far as Saugeen in the cold Canadian weather, think again. If there was a more reliable mode of transportation from the resident buildings to the rec centers that occupy university campuses, we would most likely see an increase in the daily activity rates needed in young adults' lives in order for them to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and would also decrease the level of obese adolescents.
In conclusion, I will be discussing what obesity can lead to in regard to other health problems and also provide some solutions to the growing health epidemic. Obesity has been proven to lead to several other health problems such as heart disease, stroke, and hypertension. In 2006, the Ontario Blood Pressure Survey, which was a cross-sectional, population-based survey of 2,510 adults between 20 and 79 years old, representative of Ontario's population, was conducted to establish the association of body weight with the prevalence of hypertension. The authors discovered that the prevalence of obesity, with a BMI of above 30, increased from 16% in the 20 to 39-year-olds. They also found the prevalence of hypertension increase as both BMI and age increased. Obesity also triggers many negative and damaging stereotypes, some of which can affect young obese children and continue to do damage further on in their lives. According to research conducted by Brown University, one study found that 8 to 16-year-olds viewed obese young people as less attractive, less athletically skilled, and more aggressive than their peers. Furthermore, the same study found that when children as young as 5 to 10 years old were asked to respond to pictures of an overweight body shape, they described it as lazy, dirty, and stupid. These negative stereotypes and viewpoints being used against young obese children is extremely damaging to their mental health and self-image. These issues may never be resolved and can linger on into adulthood. A study published in the Canadian Journal of Health that focused on 10-year trends regarding to overweight and obese children found that from 2003 to 2013, there was a linear increase of obesity in both male and females in grade 11. They also conducted that 25.1% of students in grades 7 to 12 were overweight or obese. These findings indicate the need for more education on this issue for kids in elementary school going into high school, and continue that education for the young adults going into post-secondary education. Mental health is an extremely delicate yet fundamentally important component of a young adult's life, especially while in university. The damaging stereotypes and self-image issues established at a young age can continue on throughout university, and when added to the mix of a high-risk, stress-fueled environment that is university, obesity-caused mental illness issues can be created. A higher than average rate of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and social withdrawals have been found among obese children and youth. Mental health illnesses, compounded with eating disorders and low self-esteem, will perpetuate obesity even further and allow the issue to grow. Obesity is an issue that affects billions of people worldwide, and every day there are procedures being invented to try to cure obesity. However, we believe the better option is preventing it, and if it is not preventable, then taking the steps to lessen or stunt it. In order to prevent obesity, educational awareness campaigns must keep advocating for a healthier lifestyle. Teaching healthy lifestyles in elementary schools, implementing cooking classes at young ages in order to allow kids the option to cook delicious and nutritious foods for themselves instead of grabbing something fat and greasy. According to the 2004 Canadian Community Health Survey, ultra-processed foods make up 45% of the daily calories consumed by Canadian adults, with a higher consumption rate found in men and young adults. It is important to start addressing obesity at young ages, and even implementing daily mandatory physical activity in schools and work environments would be a step in the right direction. Obesity may lead to type 2 diabetes, but according to Health Canada, a weight loss of only 5 to 10% in obese adults has been shown to significantly reduce the risk of diabetes. Food labeling has become an effective way of informing consumers what they're eating. Compulsory front-of-pack warning labels were introduced in Chile in June 2016, and preliminary evaluations show the changes in consumers' food purchases. In 2017, in Ontario, legislation was implemented that required displaying calorie counts on restaurants and menus. As far as reducing and preventing obesity on campus, more healthy alternatives need to be accessible to students at the same low cost as their unhealthy counterparts. Students will be inclined to choose the convenience and low-priced fast food options on campus over the healthier, more expensive options. With the university pushing for more mental health awareness on campus, we believe an equal push for healthier foods is necessary and falls in line with mental health awareness, as the two are inextricably linked. We believe the administration needs to be doing a better job of promoting healthier meals on campus and in residences. The habits and skills learned and used in residence are the habits that students will adopt for the remainder of their university careers.